Fabrication Nation. It's been a busy week here in the shop, but I thought I'd go ahead and stop and make a quick video. So I want to ask you a question. What's better than a Bridgeport? Is there anything better than a Bridgeport when it comes to a manual mill? So I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there, but I think there are a few machines out there that are superior to a Bridgeport. I was lucky enough to go ahead and pick one up. I had to drive about 3 hours out of town to get it, but it was well worth it. I got it back in the shop. I put it where my Bridgeport was, and right now I have it temporarily wired in just so I can run through it and make sure it works properly. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you what I think is better than a Bridgeport. Alright, I'll show you my setup here. I've got my granite table over here to the side. I picked this up a little while back and I haven't had time to clean it up and get it level and just get ready for use, but I'll be doing that here in a future video. And then we have all my tooling. This is a Cat 40 tool holders. I've actually been eyeballing these on Craigslist for a couple of months now. They've been on there, they haven't sold, and I knew that I wanted them, but I didn't know if I could find a machine to use them with. My hope is that I can use this Cat 40 tooling in my manual milling machine, but you have to have the right mill to be able to accept this tooling and this taper. The other issue is that it's Cat 40, which is typically used in CNC milling machines and not in manual milling machines. So I'm going to test the theory and see if we can't make these things work. And if I can, that would be super awesome, because one of these days when I do get a CNC mill, I'll be all set up on my tooling and it'll be multi-purpose. So that's just a small hint of the type of mill I was looking for and what would make it superior to the Bridgeport. So over off to the right, I have my new mill in the shop. And if you're wondering what it is a Lagoon FTV2, and that stands for, actually I forgot what it stands for. Varial speed something varial speed, but Lagoon FTV2, I believe these are made in Spain, and then, or at least the parts are made in Spain, and then they send those to California, and it gets assembled in California. Now I have it temporarily wired in here. It is 3-phase. You got your hot leg in the middle, and you have your 2 smaller legs on both sides. And once I make sure everything works, I will permanently wire this in. Okay, so you may be saying, you know what, this looks a lot like a Bridgeport. It looks like they pretty much just copied the design and started producing their own machine. We all know that Bridgeport were the first ones to create this model, this type of manual mill machine that is so versatile that you can just about do anything you want with the machine. After Bridgeport came out with this design, many other companies followed, and still to this day are still producing this style of machine. So how can this be better than a Bridgeport? Well, there's a couple things. First off, on the motor, now the data plate on this motor is worn off. I am requesting some information on it, but I believe that this is a 3 horsepower motor, and as far as I know, Bridgeport only had a 2 horsepower motor. If you went up to the Bridgeport Specials, they had up to a 4 horsepower motor, but those were the very large machines. This machine would be compatible with a Bridgeport Series 1 varial speed head. And this one does have the varial speed on it. You can see here there is a crank. and it has a high gear and a low gear. Something a little bit different is it has its buttons right here on the front. Bridgeport has their on-off switch right here, and they have a forward, a reverse, and then a stop switch right here in your face. Another thing, and it looks like this is missing the piece, but when you go to brake this, you have an option to lock the brake in place. So if you can see these teeth right here, those would lock your brake in place, and it would step over until it locked in place, and then this handle actually pulls out and you can release it. So I think this one is missing that piece or option, I'm not sure, but it does have that capability to be able to lock this in place, not touch it. I don't believe the Bridgeports have that option, and what makes that useful is I can lock this in place, and then I can come down here and then work on my tooling without having to hold my hand up there and work on the tooling one-handed. So we have a larger motor, we have a cooler brake. What else? What else makes it superior? Another thing is that it weighs more. Now I'm requesting what the weight is on this, but I've heard somewhere in the range of 500 to 1,000 pounds. This would weigh more than your Bridgeport Series 1. So the heavier your machine is, the less vibration you will have, because the weight of the machine dampens that vibration. It makes it more sturdy. It'll give you a better cut, a better finish. You can sometimes make larger cuts, and it will give you longer tool life. So many benefits to having a heavy machine. Okay, what else makes this a great machine? One of the neat things about it is when you lock the table, it has this stop in here. So when I lock this, it engages this cutoff switch. So the table's locked here, and I can lock the table on this side. The table's locked here, and this de-energizes my servo feed. And then my servo feed will not work when the table is locked in place. So that's a cool safety feature so that you don't burn up your motor here. Also right here in the middle, I can adjust my stop in this table, and whenever the stop hits this switch here, it will deactivate the servo motor. So this is not anything new. You can buy these aftermarket, but to be able to lock your table and cut off your servo motor, I think is something kind of unique. Another thing is right in here you have this pump, and I believe that is to oil your table and the ways within the table. So that's kind of neat. It has the pump right there, right next to the table. A lot of other machines will have the pump over on this side, and it will usually be attached right here, and it's called a B-Jor pump, and you just hit it one time and it's supposed to oil all the ways within the machine. This one also does have a coolant pump, and this is the switch for the coolant pump. You just flip this switch and that turns it on, and that turns it off. The coolant pump is inside. It's actually inside of this casting, and all the coolant gathers in the bottom, in the base of this casting is where the coolant would be held. And when it drains, you have this drain right here. It doesn't have a cap for it. That's something I'll have to make later on. I want to make a cap that has a filter in it so that when it drains, it doesn't take all the chips in it with it. So those are great features to the machine, but that really doesn't, I don't think, set it apart from a Bridgeport. So what is it that sets this thing apart from a Bridgeport? And I can tell you it's all in the spindle, and it's in the head, and it's the reason why I got this machine. So let me show you a standard R8 tool. This is an R8 tool that's holding a drill chuck inside of it. I don't have any collets, but this is what I have left that's an R8 shape. And if you look at the size of this, that's about 1 inch in diameter there. And why a mill is different than a drill press is because of the side load that it's able to take. And so whenever you're moving a table back and forth and side to side, you're putting a tremendous amount of load right here on this shank. And so the heavier duty that this shank is, the bigger cuts you can take, more vibration it can handle, and the longer tool life you will have. So as far as I know, you can get a Bridgeport Series 2, which is a larger machine. It's in a different category than this Lagoon FTV2 here. But if you get the Bridgeport Series 2, you can go up to a 30 taper. From what I've researched, a Bridgeport Series 2 can take a 30 taper tool holder. But what sets this mill apart is that it accepts 40 taper tool holding, and specifically that's an NMTB tool holder. So I don't know what that stands for, but here is an example of one. So that is a NMTB tool holder, and that is a 40 taper tool. And just looking at the difference, you can see visually the comparison and the improvement of the shank, the thickness, the weight. And you can imagine how much stronger the 40 taper is compared to the R8. And that is why it's used in CNC milling. So this is your 40 taper. The next step up from this would be a 50 taper. All right, I'm gonna insert the 40 taper here. And another difference with this style of a drawbar is it actually goes in from the bottom. So just like that. And then the other piece of this goes in at the top. Okay, so I got the other one in the top. It's not threaded in. The next thing you have to do is thread this in here, just like that. Okay, I'll tighten this up just a little bit. Okay, so I'm tight to my tool, and now I'll tighten up the drawbar. Okay, on this drawbar, it tightens up just like a regular drawbar here. You have to make sure this screw is engaged. All right, we're tight there. And I believe this nut acts as a lock nut. So that's tight. So that's how that works. Okay, so we have our 40 taper in there. This is a collet chuck. I don't have a collet in there right now or a tool, but I just want to test the machine out and make sure everything's working properly. So let's get her started. Okay, want to be very careful with this wiring. As I said, it was temped in. I'm going to be changing it and hardwiring it in as soon as I know that this machine works properly. One more thing about this Lagoon that I really like is that it's got this wired box in here, and the power goes in this box, and then there's a reducer in there, or a transformer or something, that then will drive this 110 outlet, and I can hook up lights to this. This also powers the servo motor, and you can see it has its own special connection. And then I've got 2 sockets to hook something up to, so I really like that. All right, here we go. Let's cross our fingers, make sure we got this thing done right. We'll start in forward. Stop. Good, everything sounded good. Now reverse. Okay, I think we're home safe here. Let's try the table and the power feed. So the servo has a switch in the very bottom of this, so you got to make sure that switch is on, and then we'll feed it. There we go. Let's try rapid traverse. Good. Go the other direction. All right. Okay. Now let's try our variable speed here. Good. Let's see how slow we can go. All right. Good. Let's make sure this safety feature works on the table lock. So we'll lock this in place, and nothing. So this one's good. Let's lock this one in place. Nothing. Okay, when I unlock this, that should engage the servo motor, so let's try it. There it is. Let's test this stop out. So when I engage this button here, it should stop. Okay, we're good there. Let's try the other one. All right, good there. So I think the servo motor is working properly. I don't see any issues with that. Let's test the sump pump. So that is on. I don't know if you can hear that. That is on. There's no coolant in this right now, and I don't think the plumbing is done on this, so we won't get anything out of it. That'll be a future project. Okay, so that's working. Let's test the outlet, the power outlet. Let me grab something. All right, I got this drill here. You know, another thing I didn't think about, but a lot of times what you'll see is that people will use a drill to create a power feed on their table right here. So they'll actually remove this. There's a specialized nut that fits on this. They'll stick a drill on it, and that will become their power feed for their knee. So instead of using a cordless drill, you could actually use a hardwired corded drill that you know will always have power. I don't know if I'll actually do that or not. I don't really care for the drill on the knee. I think it gets in the way, but at least it's an option. And you could plug right in here to the back, and this should work. Okay, so the outlet works. All right, so I'm pretty happy. Everything on this machine works. I can't cut anything on this machine. I can't do any test cuts because I don't have a vise for it right now. I'm kind of kicking myself right now because I sold my vise with the Bridgeport that I sold off a few months ago. I had a brand new vise on that thing, and I went ahead and let it go with it. And so now I'm wishing I would not have done that and I would have kept it. But I'll get another one. So as soon as I get another vise, we'll get that thing hooked up, we'll get it level, and we'll do some test cuts with it. Future videos to look out for. We are going to test the theory if a Cat 40 tool holder will fit in this machine, if the drawbar will pull it in, if I can make the drive dogs work, and if I can cut chips with Cat 40 tooling. If I can make that happen, I'm going to be so happy. Because I'll have a dual purpose machine. Not only will my tooling work for my manual mill, but one of these days when I grow up and become a big boy, I will have the tooling that can easily be swapped out for my CNC mill. So, and the other thing, the other tool that I didn't show you about, let me pull it out real quick. Let me show you this sucker. Check out this face mill. Look at that thing. That thing is about 6 inches across. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inserts in it. You can do some serious damage with this thing. I don't even know if this machine can handle something like this. This is pretty heavy. I want to say this is probably 25 pounds or so, maybe a little more. It's beefy. But just look at the size of this. We'll stick this other tooling right here. Look at the size of that thing. So, will my machine handle this? I don't know. I'm almost afraid to test it out. But if it will hold it, we'll be moving in the right direction. So look out for that. We're gonna get some serious work done with this machine. So thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for sharing. And go out and build something. Fabrication Nation.